So, Filippo, I think that some people already met you, and actually I don't know a lot about you to introduce you, but I hope that you will tell everything.
Yes, I'm
what
trying
we
my
need.
best. And more than introducing myself,
Yes, please.
I would like to introduce my co-authors first. So this is a work with Patrikas, Ugne, and Tomas. And it's a part of an ongoing project. I will tell you more details about the project itself. The title is Structuring Immersion Levels in the Reality-Virtuality Continuum, a multi-sensor approach. So during this session especially we have heard about virtual reality, augmented reality, and I think that this talk now fits very well. And this slide kind of summarizes all the spectrum that we have from, on the left side we have the real environment, so the real world, and all the way to the right side we have the virtual reality, so the most immersive solutions are on the right side. And in between these two extremes, we have multiple solutions. So for example, if we are closer to the left side, we have augmented reality. It means that what we see is the real world, but we augment, we add on top of the real world another layer with synthetic elements. If we go towards the right, we have augmented virtuality, which means that we see a virtual world, but we add elements from the reality. So for example, we can see a real person inside the simulator. So as you can see, we have a quite wide spectrum, and with solutions that depends on the applications that we are considering. And this is already an established framework, but most of the time, actually, this spectrum only focuses on visual feedback, so what we see. But humans actually have 5 senses, right? We have the sense of touch, we have the sense of smell, the sense of taste, and hearing as well. We can hear sounds. So we have 5 senses. So the idea behind this work is basically to expand this established framework into the remaining senses that humans use. And this is the table that summarizes this concept. So especially for vision, I would say again, this is an established framework, and vision in the last 100 years has seen a revolution, right? So from the first, camera that was on film and black and white, we have seen today we have cameras in our phone with amazing resolution, and we can capture photos and reproduce photos. The same has happened, for example, I see some from my generation in the 90s, Sony released the Walkman. So it was the first time that people in their pocket could have a device to record music and reproduce music. And what we see now, something similar is happening with touch. So for the first time in the last few years, we are developing devices that can actually record touch. So imagine that you could record the hug of your mom when you were a child, a kid, or maybe a handshake of a famous person, maybe Obama handshake, and then reproduce it. After some time you can reproduce it. For audio and video, actually you can Shazam songs, right? There are apps that you can use to automatically, obviously with the use of AI, to detect a specific song. With pictures and videos, you have YouTube, we can Google pictures. Imagine in a few years to be able to Google touch experiences. As I said, maybe the handshake of a famous person, and reproduce it. With smell and taste, this is also happening, but of course the technology here is a little bit more complicated and also more invasive. So for example, reproducing taste also requires the implant of needles on the tongue, but there are now state-of-the-art works that can reproduce a low-resolution taste, like for example sweet or salty experiences. So this is happening, and we have, in the paper that we have written together, we have tried to categorize this in a structured manner. And as an application, I would like to introduce you with the project that is called Beyond the Classroom, Virtual Reality, Augmented Reality and Haptics for Enhanced Surgical Training and Education, Immersive Surgical Aid. So this is the website that you can visit. The project is reaching the end, so you can already see a lot of materials that have been produced. And this is a collaboration between the University of Agder, KTU, the University of Siena, and the Lithuanian University of Health and Science. Here we have colleagues. And what I would like to show you is a possible application of this idea of using touch for training purposes. So probably in the interest of time, I will actually explain this orally. So here we have a hospital simulator, and on the left side there is a surgical doctor that is going to perform palpation on the abdominal area as a training session for the student that is on the right side. And the doctor is wearing a wearable device that we have designed, and it's actually like a recorder, like an audio recorder you would have, but this is actually recording touch. So what the doctor is touching, we are recording this tactile experience into a song, or like an MP3, you could say, where we store this tactile information, the forces that we are recording, and then we transfer this wirelessly to the device that the student is wearing, that you could see here. So this device is playing the song, is actuating the fingers and simulating the forces, like squeezing the fingertips so that the student can feel the same tactile experience that the doctor is simulating, is performing. So, and we know that for training, especially for medical training, tactile experience is very, very important. And of course, most traditionally, this kind of training is performed with real patients or with cadavers, which is not very easy to replicate on a large class of students. So what we think is, by using this technology, we can train students in a much more scalable way and more sustainable. I'll give you some more details about this technology. So the rendering device, the device that plays the song, is actually already a commercial product which is developed in Italy by one of our partners, WeArt. So the rendering device can reproduce forces, they can reproduce texture and also temperature. So you can feel, for example, if I'm touching this cold water, you can feel the temperature of the material that you are grasping. We have designed the other device, that is the one that records the experience. Here we have summarized this palpation procedure that is performed by the doctor. And here is the integration with the Unity simulator through the middleware that is provided by the WeArt device. And here is a little bit more technical. It's about how to simulate the touch of an object that is not there, right? We are in a simulated world. The object there is no physical object. So what we do is we use this method that is called proxy finger. And you can see here, the idea is very simple. If I would press my hand against the wall, there would be a reaction force for the Newton's law, right? That is going to be equal and opposite to the force that I am applying. So the idea here is to simulate this by allowing a virtual hand, like a ghost hand, to penetrate the object, the virtual object. And that distance is going to, and the velocity of penetration is going to give us the force by applying the second Newton's law. So it's a very simple idea. So the force will be proportional to the distance and the velocity of penetration. And we assume, obviously, that the mass of the hand is known. So here is the idea. So you see two hands here, the yellow and the red hand. One is going inside the human body, and the green vector that you see, that's the model of the force. So we also added some audio feedback that helps kind of visualizing that operation. And here is like, okay, for songs we have MP3 formats and other formats. So we came up with a format to store touch, right? So we used initially just a text file, but then we switched to JSON file. So these are just standard protocols to store informations. And sometimes, the idea came from an evening at a karaoke bar. Karaoke songs are stored on a MIDI file where you have all instruments and on a timeline. The same idea is here, like you have instruments are fingers here. We have 3 fingers, and for each finger we store the position, the rotation, and the force. And here is like the view of the simulator. Initially, you can see there is an interface where you can calibrate the sensors and you can set some thresholds. And then here we can visualize the trajectory that the doctor has performed in space, and then the other line is the trajectory that the student has performed by trying to mimic what the doctor did. And we can also associate some matrix to give a score, like points, collect points, like 74.81%. That was the score that the student has achieved in this specific procedure. So we can grade, we can kind of assess how good was the student in performing or replicating the procedure from the doctor. And here we can see the same visualization but in space. So you can actually see where the doctor was touching, and you can see the module of the forces that was applied. So you have an interface for the teacher and an interface for the student. And then we have done our first trial with 13 students. So we had the doctor recording the procedure and then 13 students replicating it. And we have then, at the end of each session, we were giving the students some questionnaires to answer and report about their experience. So here we have some results, and most of our results seem to be promising. So this is the CIQ chart, and it will show us the quality of interaction, comfort, performance, consistency, and sensory enhancement. And then we have also used some other matrix like the IPQ chart, and generally we have, let's say, promising results, but there is room for improvement in terms of realism and involvement. The same here. Most of the things are promising, but some of them are borderline. This was really the first trial, so it's motivating, but also we have something to learn from, and we are trying to improve some of these results. So, for example, one way to improve the experience, if you have seen the previous video, we were only simulating the upper layer of the tissue. Organs were not simulated. So when you press against the abdominal surface, you don't actually have a realistic feeling from a medical perspective. The idea would be to integrate organs below the layer of the tissue. And also, as a future work, we are considering experimenting with new rendering devices, like these ones that you can see in the picture. So this was my last slide. I'll be happy to answer your questions.
impressive. I guess students like such kind of education much more than just on simple mannequins or learning from books or even in anatomy room. Yeah, nice. Yes, please.
Yeah, okay, thank you for presentation. Wonderful again. Yeah, okay, so, but it seems to me that only if you are, let's say, using only the fingers, but you know, the posture also makes sense, you know, when you're touching, so your brain not only senses the fingertips, but only the joints angle, you know, how you apply the whole arm or maybe other body position, you know, so it's not just touching, so maybe you also could apply maybe future more sensors, you know, on the arms maybe, to feel how you have to push it, you know, the posture, you know. And another thing, you should also think about maybe, you know, we having the whole palm can be a sensor. Okay, so you maybe try to also investigate the position of applying the whole glove, you know, not just fingertips. No, I know that they are just most sensitive, but the whole let's say glove can be applied.
Definitely. Yes. So I think that these are very good points, and again, this is an initial study. But for example, some limitations here are these rendering rings can only actually simulate the module of the force, not the direction. So you know, a vector in space as a module and the direction. So this is somehow kind of improved experience through the overlapping with the visual part, right? So if you also see, then your brain will kind of be a little bit triggered to understand the movement, the direction of the movement. But another way, for example, you mentioned the palm. These other devices, for example, this one also include an actuator on the palm and a sensor. This one, you see, the more you add, like here you have all the fingers with the actuators and the palm. Here is a little bit more because there are other sensors. And of course, after this device, there are other devices that can also give you the direction. These are exoskeletons. But you know, it's a trade-off. It's always a trade-off, right? The more you add on the hand, the more you also kind of limit the movements, right? So it's a trade-off there. And
you could have a few versions, you know, if you want to go deeper, you can have that skeleton on and have that experience.
And there are even like suits, like exoskeleton suits, where you can also have, you know, you can have sensors and actuators on the arms, the legs. Yeah. So there is a way to do it, but it's a compromise. And in this project, we wanted to also make it low cost. And so, for example, we have one device that we have designed. It's on a GitHub repository, and it can be downloaded by the student. They can 3D print the parts, and they can make it at home. Yeah, with just a few motors and sensors.
Will you provide the link?
Yes, I can provide the link. I can talk to you.
Okay.
Probably. I'll talk to you later. If you Google Simple Temple, it's a repository with a page with all the instructions step by step.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for your participation, and I'm sure that now we deserve very tasty lunch. So
yes, but before I would like to say very big thank you for the contribution to chairing session for Professor Olga Riklikiene.
thank you.
So, thank you very much. For Professor Rima Krejzdite, thank you very much. And for Professor Povilas Ignatavičius, thank you very much. And now we'll have lunch, and I would like to ask you to stay here at least before best paper awards and conference closing ceremony, because now it is quite predictable predictable article, yeah. So we would like to see all of you right here, and after 6 p.m. we will have gala dinner right here. So all of you are very welcome. So, and now I would like to ask you for lunch.
You think it's still